Are we live? Great. This is awesome. Good day, Jeep family. This is Neil with SFJ4x4 and
Mad scientist Scott Brown.
mad scientist Scott Brown. And we are entering into podcast number 3 of the revamp here in the SFJ4x4 TV studio.
Yep.
And it gets better each week.
Yep. Small changes every week.
Small changes, always little forward progress every day. So really valuable. Oh, good. That's exactly what I was looking for. There we go. Small changes like adding that to
A part
to the talking points, the talking table. So, Jeep family, we are enjoying this process and talking to you. And in fact, a big shout out to our production team who keep adding aspects of the podcast, both live and the edited version. And it's important to note that you can find the edited version, the final version,
on YouTube.
Yep.
A cleaned up version.
A cleaned up version. Sound quality and breaks and intros and that kind of stuff. And what you can't see off camera today is we actually have a monitor. So if you are joining us live, instead of getting these kind of cryptic messages off the side of the screen, we can actually see. Well, we should be able to see.
Yeah.
Can you see that far?
Stop it.
Just
wondering. Because I got older doesn't mean I can't see yet.
So you got older.
Yeah,
What happened?
Birthdays happen.
Birthdays happen.
Yep. State of Ohio touched me, a very intimate area.
From your registration.
The registrations and license both. I went for the travel ID license.
Oh, you did the what they I don't know.
Don't plan on using it, but
real
I
ID.
The real ID.
Real ID.
Yep.
They kept telling us like 4 years ago that was going to be required out of every person.
Yeah. It was a big deal.
It was a real big deal.
Not a big deal.
I think COVID happened and nobody traveled. So It was like, well, we're going to keep pushing this back as well.
It's still up to you. You don't have to do it, but why not?
I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why is it still an option?
Because you got grumpy old people that wouldn't want to do it.
That's you. That's you to a T. So, but you did it. So look at you coming into the 21st century.
Wife peer pressured me.
Oh, well, that makes sense. She has aspirations.
She has that.
She wants the real ID. What are you looking at? Oh,
it works.
Nick Pizer. Hey, what's going on? How are you? Awesome. It does work. You can see it. That's cool. That's cool. Good work on Jeff's part for making sure that monitoring was available to us. How many registrations did you have to pay for?
I chose to furlough some.
You furloughed some.
So camper and little trailer furloughed, waiting till next year. Car trailer because it's just too darn handy.
Right.
And Jeep and license. So
only 5 expenditures then specifically.
Yeah, it was still $200.
Okay. Okay. And did you have to take your eye test?
Yes, I passed.
Did you?
I'm allowed to wear my glasses.
Oh, well, it made the difference.
Yeah,
apparently.
I wouldn't pass if I didn't have my glasses.
How come you only did 5? You had 3 trailers, a Jeep, and
well, everything else has got historical plates.
How does that work?
Cheap. So if it's over 25 years old, you can, in the state of Ohio, you can go up and pay, I think it's like $20 now. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but you can go up and you can plan or choose to do historical plates. They send you a white and black lettered plate, and you run that as a regular license plate, or you have the choice, which I choose to do. You can run what's called a year plate, and actually use a plate from the year the vehicle was made. And so, like, Amy's 85 CJ7 has an 85 Ohio license plate on it.
Right.
Which, if you watch that video, you'll see that. I think I actually talk about it in the video.
So it's a good segue. And we were supposed to be talking about wheeling adventures today. It was one of the things that, was suggested. And while this isn't exactly a wheeling adventure, do you want to tell me about what happens when law enforcement is not aware of the historical plates?
Oh, yes. So certain law enforcement people do not know about that, and I had a 45 Willys MB, and Neil was driving the 48 CJ2A that's actually used in our logo. And you had, would you have 48 plates on that, or did you
Oh,
just? Okay.
Oh yeah, we have historical plates
So
on there. As
so
well.
we're going as fast as stock Willys with Warren motors can go,
Smoking
smoking.
and
Very
about 30 miles with a stiff wind at our back.
And I think you had the windshield at that time, but I think it was down.
It was likely
pure
down.
Neil MO.
Yeah, it was likely down. If I don't have to
And
have a windshield, I don't.
Because I want as much comfort as possible. Mine was up, but my driver's pane was broken. Not like
That's right. Your windshield was broken.
not horribly broken, but it was definitely maybe in my lane of vision. That's not supposed to be. So we're wandering down the road, smoking. Windshield's
We're not
questionable.
smoking. Our Jeeps are smoking.
Yeah,
Right.
Jeeps are smoking.
Not in true 1940,
Yes.
driving and smoking.
We
but
had filled up the MB with used motor oil before we left because it used it so profusely.
That's right.
And the lights come on, and I thought, I'm not speeding.
No, definitely not
I'm
speeding.
definitely not speeding. So I apply the brake, and the Jeep drags right to the curb because it's a Willys. And cop comes up, and I was like, what'd you pull me over for? And I'm expecting windshield's going to be his number one thing.
Right.
Nope, it was because the Jeep was smoking. And my dad had a bad habit of being really upset and worked up with law enforcement. And somehow I inherited that. So I'm like really nervous as cold sweats are happening and everything else, even though I haven't really done anything
You've done
wrong.
nothing illegal. It's important to note nothing has been illegal.
Yep. So important note with these plates, you're allowed to drive it to and from a show, out for a leisure Sunday drive, maintenance, go get gas, go get ice cream. All those are allowed.
The real objective is you're just not supposed to drive it
every day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you drive it, all summer long, every day to work, you shouldn't have historical plates.
Right. You should not have it, and it should be the applicable vehicle safety laws of today. However, if we have historical plates on them, our vehicles are able to be like, not that I'm super proud of this, but there was a short period of time where I didn't have seatbelts in the 48.
So you don't have to have seatbelts.
Because you don't have to have them. Right.
Pre-66.
Right. And that's what I'm
vehicles don't have
saying.
to have
But if you were
seatbelts.
to plate that Jeep under today's standards.
Nope.
Really?
Still don't have to have plate. It only has to have the safety equipment of the year of manufacture. So if it's a 1965 and older, doesn't have to have seatbelts. They became standard in 66. Lots of other cars did choose to put them in. Now where that does change is if you choose to put them in yourself, then you must wear them. If they're not present, then you don't have.
Hey, Jeep family, we hope that you're enjoying this content, and we want to make sure that you head over to sfj4x4.com, find some of this cool merchandise, give us a call at our facility, 440-813-3663.
Option
1. And make sure that you tune in to our live podcast every Monday at 10:19 a.m. and check out our updates on YouTube on Tuesdays and Fridays. Until then, Jeep on. Even if it's,
Yep.
You're schooling me. I appreciate that.
You could, I could daily drive a 1960 whatever
with a
regular
today's
plate.
with a regular plate
year round, and I would not have to wear a seatbelt.
We don't recommend that.
No.
We are pro seatbelt.
Pro seatbelt.
And we are also pro law enforcement, despite your unnerved
I've gotten
nature.
better.
Yes. Yes. But anyway, so we get pulled over. I'm in the front, and
things are going badly because the cop's like, well, your Jeep is smoking, and I'm thinking, okay, it's a 45, it's original, it's going to do that, and that he says, well, and you shouldn't have that license plate on that Jeep, and I'm like, oh.
Well, he actually I think he said you're not allowed on the road. Period.
Not,
he didn't think
yeah.
it was registered.
Well, it is like a tractor. It is allowed on the road. No safety triangle needed. Anyway, so I go to pull out my registration, and this is one thing I wish, if someone's listening, please fix this. It's been years like this.
In Ohio.
In
yes.
Ohio. When you do year plates, it does not come up in their information on the police officer's screen. on his computer, it just comes up NA. It's on your registration. And what the DMV tells you to do is the plate that says historical vehicle goes underneath your driver's seat, so that if you need to present it in the act of what we're going through, getting pulled over,
Right.
you can prove that, and then it shows in your registration both numbers.
And I recall you had that.
I had that to
We both did.
the letter.
Again, I had.
And
I probably didn't have it to the letter, honestly.
Yours wasn't underneath the seat.
Mine was not under the seat.
You
Who
probably
knows
don't know where that is.
No,
But anyway, I present that, and he's like, well, that's the plate you should have on it. And then we're arguing law right there on the side of the road. And obviously he wants to win, even though he was actually wrong in this moment. So then I'm digging my heels in. And thankfully, Neil came over and got me out of handcuffs that day.
Which is true, right?
Yes. Multiple occasions, Neil's helped me keep me out of handcuffs.
Out of handcuffs.
Not for doing anything wrong.
No.
Just having an attitude.
Yes, we have a humble experience with our very good law enforcement. Sometimes they don't always have the tools for our vintage vehicles.
Yes. One thing that was enjoyable, though, for myself, is to watch him talk to his superior on the phone and realize that I was actually right and he was wrong.
Yeah, and we went on to that car show, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
I think I invited him down to the car show to come give us all tickets for historical plates, if I remember right.
Oh, you did.
I had no attitude at all.
You did. Well, yeah. Oh goodness. Well, there was a learning experience there, teachable moment.
Teachable moments.
Yeah, and so as far as staying out of handcuffs and our wheeling adventures, we used to gray wheel a good bit. We don't gray wheel.
That.
We don't condone that at this point. But if you're aware, gray wheeling is questionable properties, and that's not to say it's a private property owner, but typically you see a lot of properties that have trails being owned by power companies and gas companies, railroads, logging companies, those kinds of businesses. And so they have access trails, which then get utilized by
everyone, which is okay until garbage starts showing up, or the big mud trucks come out and they dig a hole where the power line people need to actually come service the poles and the
towers,
high tension wires. Then they usually get angry. And then they dig huge piles of dirt at the entrance so that you cannot get in, or they do a gate, and then it just escalates from there. And if again, don't condone gray wheeling, but if people were like, oh, there's a gate now, or there's a big pile of dirt, maybe I should not go right now.
Right.
It'd probably help, but it never happens in my
because
experience.
People are used to going to that particular property.
Almost like they own it.
Like they feel entitled. And that's why at this point in time, we only wheel on sanctioned properties that have established trails.
Or expressed written permission from the landowner.
Yep, absolutely. And that's our big, that's for another talking point, if you will.
Do on to others as you would like to be treated.
Absolutely.
Would you rather have giant mud trucks at 5 a.m. come through your side yard? Most would say no.
Right, with no exhaust.
With no exhaust.
Right,
or hoods.
Or hoods and big giant tractor tires just ripping up the ground. But we did a lot of gray wheeling when we were arguably younger.
We were young, learning.
Learning, and we stuck a lot of Jeeps in a lot of different properties.
Like the time you kidnapped me in the long bed Manchi.
Yeah.
I was a very nervous young man.
And we just went for a nice joyride.
Uh-huh.
But that was a 1990, 89.
I think it was a 90.
It was a 90 Renix. That was the one that I had to add a quart of oil every day. I was commuting into Pittsburgh with.
Yes. Well, it was red. Pioneer Edition.
Pioneer Edition.
Right? Yep. With the tan interior.
That was a great Jeep. I paid, I think I've said this before, I paid $300 at a garage sale for that one.
Yes.
And, man, best $300 garage sale item I could ever.
Those days are gone.
Those days are absolutely gone. A Comanche that runs.
Yeah. Like my 92, I think I paid $500 or $300 for that as well.
Yeah, yeah. We bought that one up in New York. And that one wheeled a good bit for both of us.
It was not a good experience for me wheeling that. Long wheelbase of that was not ideal. And then the fact it was trying to break in half, that definitely hampered wheelability.
Yes.
Neil didn't care. He,
No.
he was using that thing in
I
the
used
side
that thing
yard.
as a tractor in my side yard starting this company, moving parts back and forth between the two halves of the property.
Boy, that Jeep would have been so cool when it was new too. 92 last year, gray, 4-wheel drive, 4-liter, automatic, red interior, had the cool little zippy stripe down the side. It's only 91, 92.
Mm-hmm.
Short bed,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, that
long
would have
bed
been
Comanches just look weird to me.
So I see no love for the long bed Manchies. But I even today, I scroll Facebook Marketplace and I'm like, oh man, if the right one fell into my lap,
Uh-huh.
I would daily the heck out of that thing.
No, you wouldn't.
We do service a customer who has he dailies his long bed Comanche, the orange one, from the south there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one.
yeah he paid almost $10,000 to my knowledge.
Yep.
And he said he bought it because old trucks are built so well. Oh, Pizer, a 2-door Gladiator,
Lots of people are.
right? And that's as far as the Comanche conversation. And I look through, constantly because I used to like obsess over wanting to build a 4-door Comanche.
It's always what you can't have that you
Right.
want.
Right.
If they would have made a 2-door Gladiator, I'd be like, man, if they just make a crew
If
cab.
they just made a crew cab. And that's the thing. I keep looking at these Comanches and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I had so much fun and I had 3 or 4 all together at this point. And I'm thinking, man, it would be so great to have a Manchi again. But, as far as, Nick's saying, I mean, a Gladiator, just, it's turnkey, it's serviceable, parts are readily available. The construction is just so much better these days.
I got kids. I need back seats and back doors.
Right. And I ultimately end up back on like, I just need to buy a regular Gladiator.
Someday.
Yeah.
I got my 4-year plan.
Your 4-year plan.
Just got to keep making that green they have so it'll match my JK. So it'll look good towing it to the trail.
So you want to have a tank green.
It's not called tank now.
Well, no.
But it's close.
It's close, and then you want to tow your JK as like more of a buggy.
I don't know if it'll be full buggy, but it won't be like, oh my God, this broke, I need to drive it home kind of stuff. So I'm still pretty reserved on that stuff. Not going to see me go scale the side of a mountain anytime soon.
No. Again, back to that nervous conservative nature of things in the process.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a sweat stain like I did in the Comanche when I got kidnapped.
Yes. And it was just fun cruising on some trails we were outside of Grove City, Pennsylvania.
Adjacent to a farmer's field.
We were not in the farmer's field, but you were convinced.
The farmer's going to show up with a 12 gauge and tell us to leave.
You thought like it was out of Cars where like the combine comes to life and chases Lightning McQueen.
Granted, you went down the trail, tried to turn around, and this long bed Comanche bit you really hard because we had to do a 50-point turn.
And speaking about that, it really had me thinking about Gladiators and their wheelability. Our Jeff at this point bought a 2021 and has
christened it already.
Pinstriped it, pigeonholed it into places that never should have.
Bedsides are not sacred anymore. No. They have touch-ups.
No, Jeff and Greg. Jeff did it all on his own, but Greg did it because I led him into. I don't think you were with us on that trip, were you? When
he was willing in 2-wheel drive?
No. When I took him down a deer path.
Yes,
like Southington.
Yes, he doesn't like that.
No,
still speaks badly of that.
Yes, still speaks ill of the fact he has a beautiful paint job, and I took us down like legitimately a deer path.
I got over the pinstripe worry a long time ago with the LJ he has now. I did a lot of wheeling with a friend at night, and
back to the gray wheel
at night, wheeling
back at night with just our fog lights on.
Yes, quiet as can be. But we actually, took garbage out. We tried to do good while we were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there was this long vine that came down over the trail, and you had to hit it just right so it came up the bumper, down the hood, up the windshield post, down the top, and fall off the back. Otherwise, you could get it literally caught between your bumper and your passenger wheel.
That sounds like something from like the little kid from Family Circus, where they're all over town and.
Yep.
Okay.
And the other fun story, I think it was the same night. the leader had a two F-250 on 40s lifted and shortened, and there was 2 trees that stock with TJ barely fit, and this F-250 went up the side of the trees and through, and like rubbed the paint off the door handles, and then up and over the trees again.
Seriously,
like wheeling on the side of the bark of the tree.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Was that was it F-250?
It was an F-250.
What vintage?
It was a 77 or 78,
Okay.
I think.
So you're the
Leaf sprung.
Yes.
60 in the back, 44 in the front.
Yep. Nice truck.
Yeah.
For off-roading, nice truck.
And it had been shortened and put a step side box on the side, on the back of it, which I don't think they could have come that way in a 250.
Okay.
But
okay,
it was a little big for the trails.
So I think if I'm thinking of that trail system that you're talking about, my sister and I were out there on.
Everybody's been out there.
Everybody's been out there. Not anymore. Not in the last 10 years,
no,
honestly.
Gates happen. Big piles of rocks happen. Couch surf. I didn't see it, but I heard stories about people getting dragged through on a couch and a boat and all kinds of bad stuff. And that's kind of what took that away.
I think also in our specific area, the 4-wheel drive scene has kind of matured up a little bit.
Yes.
Obviously, I'd like to take a little bit of credit. We're
trying to help on that.
Right. We're trying to help. And
we've all gotten a little older, had kids, kind of gotten some lumps, learned the hard way as some of us.
Yeah, the property was nice.
Yeah,
it was great for years, but you know, now that more people have means to go to Southington or to Roush or to Anthracite or Bundy Hill, you know, if you go west.
Yep.
And of course, Lake County Off Road offers an event
at Pine Lake. It's
Pine Lake.
Great spot, especially if you're green, you're not ever done it before, because they got an awesome recovery crew. They will get you out of the hole. They got it down to a science at this point, and
These guys love recovery.
Oh, they love it. They got lights. They got vests. They really got it down.
It's a very safe event.
Very safe. They do a really good job of that. Bill Streb and Big D, all of them really do a good job of that event. Put a lot of heart and soul into it.
Right. That happens twice a year. So you can scratch that itch those times, and then Southington. And if you are really looking for something more robust, you load up the trailer and you drive
a little bit,
you know, and west, east, south.
Yep.
And you can hit a pretty good wheeling area. But I was saying, so my sister and I took, she had a 97 TJ, and we took it out to the property that we were talking about there briefly. And that was for my birthday, my 25th birthday. And I buried her Jeep, absolutely buried her Jeep. And I smoked.
A trend here.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, there are some trends. And I smoked her clutch in the process. I mean, it's just that thick smell of hot clutch.
Sure, Beth was very happy about it.
We had actually just put it in.
Of course.
And you know what? That's when I fell in love with Luke clutches. And so Luke was actually made here in Ohio, out of Wooster, Ohio. And we had put one of those clutches into her Jeep.
With a new tranny, if I remember right.
It was a transmission I had built in 2004-ish. I built this. I didn't personally build it. I had a business out of Florida build it.
Yep.
For my 87, and the 87 had gone on again, as we talked, I think last time.
No Jeep gets out alive.
No Jeep gets out alive, but the parts live on. Actually, that's actually a pretty spectacular segue into our American Legend and the branding. If you're not aware, this is our signature logo at this point. And American Legend really is about the vitality of Jeep and Jeep parts and what that means to America and to our process, the robustness. And so
use American when you can.
Yep. We use American when we can, and we try to be a very USA proud brand. So I'm gonna take a moment and plug the fact that we have
we've gotten restocked. I know a lot of customers have been asking. We were short on a lot of stuff.
It's like a youth size there, right? And then we have that very cool. So we did that for the Heritage region. We've got Toledo and Butler represented well on there. That kind of breadbasket, and we have, of course, our hoodies.
Yep. Hoodies are back in stock.
Yeah, beautiful, nice quality. Obviously, I think we're both rocking ours. Are probably a couple years old at this point.
Yep. No, holding up well, and we're not kind to clothing.
No, no, no. A brand that. Oh, and we have long sleeve as well. So we
Long
have,
sleeve T-shirts.
yeah, we have short sleeve. We have long sleeve. A lot of people, it's getting colder right now, and they might want a long sleeve. Um, so if you do want some of our merchandise, you'll be able to find that
On our website,
on our website.
and there's a good chance on the Christmas parade on Black Friday coming up. You could pick up one then as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
not this Friday, but next Friday.
Next Friday.
When the snow falls outside, you can hold me tight. When it's cold through the night, we'll stay warm inside.
We're already close to Turkey Day.
Wow. We're
Yep.
that close.
Yeah, and we're gonna have Jeeps always come up for the parade. We all congregate here. Everybody puts Christmas lights on their Jeep, decorates it. Then we line up and go through the town, and people enjoy it a lot.
They do. I mean, it's the town is really invested. It's amazing how many people, because of course we weren't able to have the event last year.
Yep.
Officially, and it's amazing how many people have reached out to me specifically from the town.
Me too.
Oh, you too. asking if the parade's going to happen. And I'm going. We just participate in it. We don't organize it. We're not.
We do have usually a lot of Jeeps. Usually, how many head count do you think we normally get, Neil?
As far as Jeeps, we always push between 30 and 50.
Yep.
So
So we're a big part of the parade.
big part of the parade, and a lot of people, you'll hear them kind of joke or lament in the video because they will broadcast it. They will put it up on
Yeah.
YouTube.
More Jeeps.
More Jeeps. Oh, there goes more Jeeps. But
Yes.
people, for the most part, really enjoy seeing. And of course, we as Jeep people, not only do we love our wheeling,
Yes.
but we love getting together and doing some communal things. And doing the parades is just as important as.
And where else can you have your top down in freezing weather with possible snow and like a tree coming out of your Jeep?
Yes, a Christmas tree, a giant snowman, a 7-foot snowman.
Yes.
We've had people come before with like PA systems on their Jeep and play music,
Create Christmas music.
create Christmas music through, and
Yep.
obviously a great time to use your rock lights and your colored halos and have fun with that.
Yep. And I love a lot of people have themes. Like a certain blue Gladiator has a blue light system. I'm
Okay.
really looking forward to seeing.
Okay,
I've seen pictures.
okay, as all the blue lights,
All the blue.
it's the
Blue Jeep
icy-
crew will love the fact that
Oh,
he's all
my.
blued up.
Yes, Blue Jeep Crew is a very active group online, and
If I
they
had
would love
any
to see.
game, I do green lights on mine, but it'll be last minute for me, like
It,
normal.
it will be the last minute. I will just find a Jeep that runs.
Well, you do have one now.
I do. Chuck Norris, yeah, and that's reasonably road legal, and
Yep. We're just doing
available?
one brown Jeep, family
Oh,
Jeep this year.
not bringing out Amy's.
No, I poor planning of storing chess pieces,
Okay.
and I can't get it out.
Okay.
Plus, I think she has to work now, so
Well, on that note, we're going to be gathering here at 5 o'clock on Black Friday.
Yep.
We won't be open that week or weekend. I should say the week.
so obviously Thanksgiving, then Black Friday will
Thanksgiving,
be closed.
Black Friday will be closed, and but we'll be gathering here at 5 o'clock. We'll kind of congregate here for about an hour before we head over to the local high school.
Yep.
And we'll sit and wait for
Which is right
half an hour,
across the
45
tracks
minutes.
from us.
Yeah, real close stuff. But I've seen a lot of people excited to get out and be part of this, spread a little Christmas cheer.
And come that hour and watch all the Simpson crew get their stuff decorated because we're all last minute and last. Usually Greg has the most planning. He'll have an inverter ready.
Oh yeah,
Lights already up. He'll just pull in and stand around and watch us frantically zip tying things.
Zip tying wreaths and like beating on like battery pack
Yes.
lights because or desperately digging something out of the shop.
Well, never thought about actually checking for batteries or checking to make sure the inverter works beforehand.
No, but I really appreciate the customers who show up fully ready to go. And actually, if we go back to a little bit of a storytelling with the parade and people using their Jeeps and law enforcement, we actually had a couple customers get pulled over by law enforcement for having their Christmas lights on their Jeeps.
Oh my!
So they got off of 6N in Pennsylvania there, and one of the state highway officers, pulled them over and had to question them for their legalities of having their lit Christmas wreaths on the back of their Jeep. So always kind of an adventure with our modified vehicles that call a lot of attention to ourselves.
Yes.
So, but as far as our gear, we'll have that here available.
Yep.
We'll be here between 5 and 6:15 before we go and line up, waiting ready for the parade.
Does the parade start off at 7?
The parade steps off at 7. Usually it's pretty prompt. I know that in July the parade started a little early because of weather.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we like to be over there lined up and kind of out of the way. But we'll definitely congregate here and do so in the safest way possible while we decorate our Jeeps and tell these types of fun stories, these anecdotes about how we use our Jeeps or the mods we've done or the parts we've bought or want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of live up that cool experience. So we'll have the gear here and maybe some light refreshments. And
I remember one parade year you had the 2A up on the wedge right on the front.
Yes.
Because I think we had broken it at that point, and it was smoking so badly we couldn't drive it through the parade because we asphyxiate all the parade goers.
Because that 2A that I've wheeled, I've daily driven it.
It's had a good life.
It's had a great life. God bless my father for bringing that one into our ownership.
Grandfather
first, and then my father.
Yes. It actually has an MB motor in it.
It does, 45 MB motor. You're right. Really cool.
Ironically, my MB did not have the MB motor in it, so it was kind of fun.
But we put that up on the wedge.
Yes, and I think you rode in it, or somebody rode in it, or I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, because I had a cousin of mine driving my truck at one point.
Yes, yeah, I think you and Jen were in the Jeep.
Yeah. Because I always wanted it. I always thought it was fun to like pretend that it was like Santa's sleigh.
Yes,
because it's red.
It's red.
I wanted, we have that wedge, and so it's a very cool 50-foot wedge, and have the deer as pulling Santa's sleigh idea.
I actually remember back to wheeling stories. You wheeling the 2A at multiple occasions. Once at Tom's Trails and once at Pine Lake with Elcor. And he was doing the strong arm steering.
Yes, because
you got wide tires.
Because we have, because of course it was we one of the renditions when we put that Jeep together was in the 90s. So of course, classically the only tire that should have been chosen,
Super Swampers,
Super Swamper, Thornbirds by Interco, and which of course has a whole following or not following online.
Great for handling on the street, right? Great for daily driving in high school.
I put that Jeep in somebody's lawn. I still think about them constantly because it was one of those situations, and I know they're probably not watching because they were not Jeep people. But I hydroplaned.
Yes.
Again,
a lot of rubber on the road.
A lot of rubber, very wide, light vehicle.
Jeep doesn't weigh anything.
And no windshield, and it's pouring rain. Right.
Of course.
And
so you can't get a happier Simpson than when they're in a topless Jeep, maybe with a windshield at most, getting completely poured on. Just buckets of water.
Just buckets of water or freezing cold.
Yes.
Because my wife
that's
and
a requirement.
Oh yeah, my wife. I mean, that's how I knew my wife was going to. She was the one because we drove a topless Jeep to South Carolina.
Yes.
And back, and she held the blanket as a windbreak for us the whole time back while she listened to country music on repeat over and over again.
And tires.
And tires. Yeah. We listened to.
But I remember the I think it was at Tom's Trails. You actually broke something in the steering, which is no surprise. Stock steering to a very old
Roscam system.
Little to no maintenance.
If you've ever played the game Mousetrap, the kids game Mousetrap, and the objective is to try desperately to create the most
moves
elaborate.
and that goes up, and then that happens. That's pretty much Ross Cam.
That's Jeep steering in the 40s to
yep.
60s, and you've just all these moving pieces, and
none of them wear out,
and not very efficient. No play whatsoever. And by the time you input a little bit of energy here at the steering wheel, great gear reduction, but
little to nothing happens out at the wheels.
Little to nothing happens down here, right?
So he was in this notch doing little to nothing steering. I
got the tires spinning. I got those.
You did. You had that little 40 horse of fury going on, and that was when it was new. It was 40 horse. So we're probably down about 12 horsepower.
We're 12 horsepower.
And he's just strong arm sawing this wheel, and we heard a pop.
Yeah.
And suddenly we didn't have any steering input anymore. So we had vagueness before.
Right.
And then we had to be, how are we going to get this old thing out of here?
How are we going to get this? And it was a little creek climb
with a V notch,
with a little notch in it.
Yep.
And that's half the fun of. I mean, not that I'm really looking to go out and break a vehicle. That's obviously not our MO.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Happens, you have to be like, okay, pivot. How am I going to get this out?
Pivot. So
I actually think we went up that trail last time out to Tom's, and I got to play with my lockers finally.
Oh, you and Jeff went out after the Great Lakes Jeep Jam.
Yeah, and he beat his Gladiator off some trees.
Again, yeah, that's his MO. It sounds like a 2021 Gladiator that's just a workhorse for him. But because we did Great Lakes Jeep Jam did a vendor run.
Yep.
Which obviously I hope they try to do that again in the future, and more vendors. We encourage you to participate because a friend of ours, Tom, has a great piece of property.
Tom's Trails.
Tom's Trails.
Everybody in PA knows about Tom's Trails.
That's right. We've been hosting kind of a private event there for a few years, and this is actually, I think, the Willie's Wheeling there was part of our private event.
Yep.
And
Tom's Trails can be pretty serious.
It can be. It's what you make of it, to say the least. And I think, right, wrong, or in between, I think I ended up getting drug out backwards.
I think so.
Which is always. And
you kept trying to input steering.
But
nothing was happening.
No, that's right. I was getting drugged backwards.
Yes.
But did somebody have to strap onto the front of the Jeep?
I think that something like that sounds familiar.
So Tom had this classic pink buggy-inspired TJ.
Yes, everybody knows his pink TJ.
Yes, and
it's like on the third
rendition of it. Yes.
Yeah.
And he ended up having to drag me backwards, which is, no greater shame in wheeling than having to get drug out entirely backwards in a process.
And then you're in the front of the pack, so we all watch you.
So absolutely. If I remember right, I actually went live on Facebook getting drug out backwards.
Find that footage.
We should see if we can find that footage.
Yes, that would be fun.
It would be. And I got drug out backwards.
And getting into Tom's is most interesting part of it. So you had to go up that as well, and then through his side yard.
Right?
Yes.
And I couldn't believe the Great Lakes Jeep Jam did their trails out there. And I'm thinking, you're going to have a lot of people doing the newbie run.
Yes.
And they have to go down that switchback with the V-notch at the end.
Yep.
That's terrifying if you're new.
Yep. I remember you in Baby Jeep. You almost went off the end of that.
Oh, God. Well, not that one. Baby Jeep, and that one was down in Scrubgrass.
Oh, I was thinking of Scrubgrass, actually doing notes for this. And the time I almost soiled myself in my Jeep, it was when I had the LJ, and it was very mild compared to, the rendition of Chuck Norris it is now.
Right.
I was on a whopping 32-inch tall tire, I think, at that time.
Classic.
Yes.
Classic Scott Brown.
And I went to go up this hill, and of course we're winter wheeling. And if you think, hey man, I've wheeled everything, I'm a bad butt, I can do anything, go wheeling in the snow. It changes you.
It does.
It's something you walk through in the summer. You can spend 3 hours getting yourself out of.
Right.
I've done that on multiple occasions.
Yes.
And
it's amazing. That's so true. There's so many people who are not.
Hey, John Graber. Good
morning
to you
John?
guys, you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so snow can make a big difference, and you don't realize the additional traction you get when they plow, and the great work our road crews do. bad sand or any of that intersections. So you're off road with hard mud and snow
And
there's
ice. That's
no traction at all.
yes.
And I went to go up this hill, and the Jeep literally just stopped moving. And it's every time I try to get going again, it started drifting sideways. And anybody knows you're on a hill and you get sideways, there's a couple of options, and none of them are good.
None of them are good.
So I had to back off this hill, and the Jeep kept basically sliding backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard stories of people getting out of the vehicles and like kissing the ground and having a moment, head between your knees. And I chose that time to try that out. It definitely helps.
So so the thing is, Scrubgrass is in Templeton, PA, and it was a hunting lease, a land lease, and it was open a lot a few years ago. So somewhere between 7 and 10 years ago, it was open a lot. There was a business. It was like a ATV side by side. It was called Stiller Motorsports. The guy's name was Steve Stiller, if I remember right, and he did a great job hosting these off-road weekends at Scrubgrass, and it actually developed a pretty good reputation at the time. Um, he unfortunately was involved in a very serious accident and has, to my knowledge, recovered some. We're not super personally acquainted, but and has started to open up these events. But I also understand that the property changed hands, maybe, so harder for the the leaser to.
Well, it's really challenging when you have huge acreage that you need to do wheeling events and keep them fun. That's a lot of taxes, a lot of upkeep.
Insurance
Insurance
is
is a
a big one.
nightmare.
And so, but the property has this. It's as many of our wheeling properties are, certainly in this area, are. It's an old mine,
Mhm.
quarry type.
So lots of
space.
varying terrain. You get some rock, some mud, wooded trails. Pretty much the MO of this area.
Absolutely, but one of the big things was the big giant switchback that kind of meanders down. I believe there was a creek or a river at the bottom of the property, I think, and this giant switchback. And so that's where we really, it was yourself, my sister, and myself. We had a really nice time, a good day. I always think back on that specific day. It was a lot of fun. With the exception for me, I had baby Jeep, which at that time wasn't a baby.
Yes.
But
We had lifted it in my garage, or part of it in my garage.
part of your garage, we did the SYE. That was one of the first big SYE builds for you.
And you had these very pregnant, like 90s era 35s on it.
It was a YJ. Of course, it had pregnant, 90s, pregnant 35s that were more or less all terrains.
So you no longer had use of fifth gear.
No. Everything was in fourth gear at best.
Rocking the 307s, 405.
No. It had 411s in that time because I took.
That's right.
I took.
You swapped the
I
axles.
took four
Well,
cylinder.
then you did have fifth gear.
Ish.
Ish.
By that time, I did. I did. You're right. By that time, I took 4-cylinder YJ axles, which are 411 gears, and swapped them in. So poor man's re gear,
Yep.
if you will. I still had the Dana 35 in the rear, but that was really the first time that I was distinctly aware of. Certainly, our older, our CJs, our YJs, our TJs, even our XJs and MJs, ones that are manual, and we used to have a bicycle cable.
Yep.
Attached to your shifter. So if you built or wheeled a Jeep in the 80s or 90s, early 2000s,
And it was manual.
it was manual. One of your things, one of your tricks is to take a bicycle cable. There's a handful of aftermarket manufacturers
Like a speed cable.
that will pull up the throttle for you. That will be a finger throttle.
And then it's cruise control, because most of those Jeeps never had cruise control.
That's true. That's true. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Now, but I was stuck, and so I ended up as I came around the switchback and I tried to make the turn going down the hill. Tires were locked up, and the front passenger tire just dropped ever so slightly over the side of the hill. So I had 3 tires on the switchback. One tire that was,
Of course, open.
yeah, precariously hanging off a cliffside as far as I was
And
concerned.
you could have been happier.
And I'm desperately trying to 2-foot 3 pedal.
If we only would have had the technology we have now,
Oh my
and had an 8.8 in the back of that with a limited slip,
Oh.
it's so much difference.
Yes. Well, and that is a spectacular, and that's why we do so many of these at this point.
We
So,
actually have a TJ in house right now that we did an 8/8 swap on that. And we have that down to a science at this point. There's just so many reasons to like an 8/8.
absolutely.
Ring gear is actually physically bigger than the 44. 44 is 8.5 inches ring gear, and an 8/8 is obviously 8.8 inches. So that little bit makes a
Obvious
difference.
to us, but a lot of people might not be
Yeah, they may not be aware,
aware that that's actually the ring gear diameter.
Here's something that I bet you didn't know. What year did the 8/8 come out?
Oh, 91.
Nope. 1977.
What?
Yep. I was doing some research and I found that out. I was shocked. And almost all V8 equipped Fords from 86 on had an 8/8.
Huh.
And so 24 Fords in total models offered an 8/8. So that's why it's so common.
This might as well be a Dana 30 in Jeeps.
It might as well, as long as it had a V8 and V6 and Explorers and Rangers. And the important note, the fact is that the weak link in the normal 8/8 is they have a 28 spline axle shaft with a C clip, so it's pretty small. Rangers, Crown Victorias, Aerostars, all those have 28 spline. Mustangs, believe it or not, Mustangs have 28 spline.
Right.
And Explorers, for whatever reason, chose to give 31 spline, which is actually what the half-ton pickup truck of that era had, was a 31 spline 8/8.
Okay.
But it's wide as all get out. Where the 8/8 and the Explorer is actually 59.5 inches wide, which everybody knows TJs, XJs, YJs are all about 60.
Sure.
So you're only a half an inch shy.
Right.
Total.
Which I think I would have loved to have known when I was desperately trying to build those wagon axles.
Yes, because they're actually similar width.
They are.
And I've got a kind of a thought in my head on speaking on that, on Amy's wagon, and maybe putting an 8/8 in the back of that, and just keeping my MO of doing weird stuff and weird vehicles.
Oh boy.
And maybe a 30 in the front, like out of an XJ or something.
Oh, that would be cool.
It's right width for it.
It is. Really?
That's just a kind of a brainchild of mine. And then we'll see if an 8/8 likes a LS.
Well, we know that it likes an LS.
Well, that's true. Greg's already done it.
Greg's already done it.
And I'm not putting 37s on that.
No, Greg's already done it. He's done an 8/8 on 37s and wheeled it, and has a couple good videos out there of him doing burnouts and stuff with it. So you could do that with your wagon, because like you said.
And if you need a little bit more width, you can actually do a C-clip eliminator, and it gains you an inch aside overall width. So then you're a little bit wider than stock, which obviously we all like that in Jeep world. We want our tires out a little bit more.
Right. Whether it's that aggressive look that we're going for, or that perceived stability that you get from that wider track.
And you can actually get alloys either way, with C-clip or without. And I know a lot of people are always worried that the Dana 35 is giving
Notorious.
them PSD.
Notorious.
Of C-clips breaking and axle shafts walking off the side. But the advantage of the 8/8 is most of the ones we play with are 96 to like 2000, and they have rear disc brakes, which is another win. You get a disc brake upgrade automatically in that. And little known thing, the Jeep leads little to no modification to run those appropriately. Valving and all that stuff is pretty much
for the disc brakes.
Perfect right out of the box. And the other thing people don't realize is they're not you can't take one off and put one on without changing some other things, but they're very similar to our the stock brakes that would have been on Chuck Norris in the back of that 44.
Right.
Caliper design and rotor are very, very similar.
Parking brake, the width and diameter of the rotor itself is very similar.
Very similar.
Absolutely.
So you can use like e-brake cables off a later model TJ on some of those vehicles that have it picked up in the center. It's kind of a backyard still version of that.
Which would have benefited Baby Jeep and the YJ, because again, all I did was do just a 35 for the 411 gears.
And you can get a 8/8 Explorer axle with 410s.
Yep.
They are getting harder to find for obvious reasons. Jeep, those Fords are getting older, and not only are us as Jeep owners liking them, Ranger guys like them.
Mustang guys.
Actually Mustangs, there's another flavor they can do, because important to note on the Explorer is actually the pinions offset 2 inches from center,
Oh, that's right.
where Mustangs are actually centered.
Okay.
But sadly they're small axle tube, small axle shaft. The only Mustang, trivia for you, that has 31 spline axle shafts is a Cobra Mustang, but sadly those have an IRS in the back. So we're talking 04 style.
Oh, okay.
They
So
would have had a big
reboot,
mod
yeah.
mower with a blower on it,
Okay.
but they had IRS in the back. So the center chunk, the center guts are very similar to an Explorer.
Right. It's like oftentimes the Dana 44, the ring and pinion, kind of sets the tone, the standard. So the 8.8 sets the tone or the standard. Ring and pinion the same, and then the manufacturers kind of develop different things around there. So whether it's the carrier, the tube diameter, tube thickness, and we use these. We've done countless 8.8 swaps at this point.
Yep.
Because again, they just flat out work. Our options are again that elusive Dana 44 that
Very expensive at this point.
yeah, they're oftentimes very expensive as far as takeouts from a TJ.
And the best gear ratio you can get, unless it's a Rubicon, is 373s.
Right.
So you still have to re-gear it. Where you can get lucky with an 8.8 and find a proper gear ratio, either a 355 if you're doing an XJ swap and you don't want to
Right.
re-gear, need to do it in stages, or you want that obvious 410 choice. But at this point now, we're doing more and more even 8.8 re-gears, and we're choosing, even if it's a stock posi or a clutch style limited slip.
Right. Which you had in one of your Jeeps. So your XJ, you
My
did an 8.8
XJ,
in the
I
rear.
chose to do that. Now the downfall of that, I should have listened to Greg. What do we do when we wheel our Jeeps? We drive through water and stuff. And then what should you do after that? Service it.
Diff fluid change constantly.
And the stock LSD in an Explorer or Mustang or that, they require this expensive 75-140 synthetic with limited slip additive.
With additive in it. Yeah.
It's very costly to do that. And as Greg says all the time, 8.8s are thirsty. They carry a lot of fluid.
Right, like 2.5
Almost
quarts,
3
almost
quarts.
3 quarts, which is our on a standard like a JK44 is almost 2.
Yep.
So we have a quart and a half extra, more
Yep.
or less.
And everybody knows you can't just get 2.5. You got to get the full 3, and you're going to have some languishing on your shelf then.
Sure.
So it's one of those scenarios where you can actually choose to go with like what's called a true track.
We use a lot of True Tracks in our builds.
Then it requires no extra special oil.
The one that you referenced over here actually has an ARB in the back of it.
Yep.
Which is a very cool. He's actually he chose to go ARB front and rear, a
Yep.
full air locker.
With a great twin ARB compressor.
Yep, the twin compressor.
Got this sweet mount that mounts on top of the motor.
We've got like 3 or 4 of those. I know the country is really dealing with some supply chain issues with those, but we have them in stock at the moment.
Yep.
So
Got the inside line on them.
inside line in them, right? But as far as parts are concerned, with our 8.8s, converting them into specifically our ZJs and our TJs.
And don't they have some stuff for XJs as well? The pads and that.
Yeah, they do.
Shock
They
tabs.
do. One of the product. What you know? What we have here?
This is a front pocket for a TJ, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Your coil spring would sit here. And the cool part about Artec is they make everything key together. And it just kind of takes the guesswork out of it. And if you've ever played with stock bracketry, you can see this is no joke.
Right.
It's some thick stuff.
Because from the factory, you would have had a stamped steel design.
Yep.
And this is, they primarily do 3/16 and 1/4 inch. They laser cut everything.
And the other ones, you'll notice that you'll be used to having a bar pin here with bolts straight down for your shock. They actually completely encapse it. So that's not breaking off.
No.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the passenger side, and that's where your stabilizer would go.
Absolutely. And so with our 8.8s, what we were talking about, we primarily use the Artec conversion brackets.
They make a truss.
They make a truss.
Which that is one thing I've been told, that the tubes can be thin on an 8.8, but once you truss it with the Artec truss, there's no question that you're gonna have any issues there. Comes out really wide onto the tubes, and then the spring pockets and that, and again, it all keys together. Greg's got that down to a science at this point. You can direct your pinion angle and that while you do it.
Well, that right there is a big part of what makes us special in our process, because we'll oftentimes get a Jeep in that's already had a truss installed, and we'd also use a couple other truss manufacturers, and we just use our tech because that's their bread and butter,
Yep.
are their trusses and
It's
their
all
laser
about
cut.
positioning.
It's all about the positioning, and so we'll actually dial in that pinion angle right from as Greg's preparing the axle. And there's a great video on YouTube that came out last week. It's actually super awesome. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out. Greg's doing cleaning up some 8.8s. Typically, we don't clean them up in house. We get them commercially sandblasted. But we had to do what we had to do what we have to do because other companies are lagging, and
Yep.
we're not gonna
We're not gonna wait.
we're not going to wait. So he cleans it up, and then he positions the truss, and we talk about what makes Artec desirable in this situation. But we've also used Iron Rock Off-Road and TNT. They both make great trusses, and there's also a handful of other manufacturers do good truss stuff. But they just take a couple extra steps as far as that keying is concerned.
Mhm.
The other piece on this specific piece that I love, and I don't know that the camera will pick it up, is they actually dimple out their coil.
Yep.
For the
Which is impressive. I would love to see the press that does that.
Oh, to say the least.
That's not
that's
thin plate there.
not thin. It's very thick, and a lot of other manufacturers don't have the means to do that. So
Yes.
then your coil, they have to use a coil correction
Plate.
puck or a plate.
Yep. Sometimes it's a urethane piece, which is great for a while. Urethane gets old, starts to degrade.
Can get squeaky.
This is not going to do those things.
No, and it seats it very, very nicely in a factory orientation. So
Plus, it's impressive how they break that compound curve. If you ever, tried to do that, you should just put a piece of steel in a vise and hit it with a hammer and see what kind of force it takes to bend it over 90 like that.
right, right, not all that easy. So.
No, they're really good at what they do. Justifiable by all means that they use. But that's what that TJ in-house has. And it just flat out works right out of the gate. Then you can use your arms in it for your long
control
arm
arms,
or
your
that.
long arm, your short arm.
Yep. And the other important note on 8.8 is the stock U-joint on the Explorers is actually a very weird U-joint. It's a 1330.
Right.
Which I'm not mistaken, isn't that the same as a 95 only YJ?
So 95 only rear most shaft, because they
Yep.
actually in the YJs they had a 1310 at the transfer case. So you have your
and
slip.
1330 at the
Yep.
back.
Yep. So
It's
that
confused a
the
lot
shaft,
of people.
Yeah, it has, and not us, but
No.
I mean, we've always had that answer, and it was helpful because obviously I had a 95 and learned some of those lessons early on. We actually had two
When we
'cause
did the
Dad-
410 swap.
That's right. That's right. And the drive shaft actually created the conversion. And there's three things you can do: is you can either run a drive shaft that does the conversion, you can run a conversion joint,
Which is one size this way and one size that way. I was familiar with them with the hot rodding world,
right?
making things work. But the very cool part is Dana makes a flange
They do.
that bolts to an 8.8, and then you can run a standard 1310 U-joint. And while probably the 1330 is a little stronger, it's just a pain in the butt to get.
Yeah, and I think that nominal gain on the size of the 1330, the fact that it's more difficult to come up with, and you can just carry one spare. If you're that, the person who has 1310s in their Jeep.
Yep.
It just makes it more advantageous.
One thing I have heard many people talk about, that round companion flange that the 8.8 has actually helps in like rock situations because
Right.
it's smooth. You get up and you actually start dragging it on rocks. You have a 44 and it's a square piece. You're doing paddling it on the rock.
Correct.
And it's very hard on it. Where that round piece just literally paws by it and it's fine.
It's funny. We've been dealing with that for decades, as
Yep.
far as the yoke itself and the yoke ears and the straps ripping off in rocks, and we had to have pinion throat guards and
Yep. Well,
armor for that.
people don't realize a Jeep actually did that off and on themselves. I, for a while, played with 8 1/4s, like what would be in an XJ in the back. And Liberty's continued that axle on, and they did disc brakes and some other things on that. And they actually got a companion flange at some point in their build as well.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Well, at this point in time, if you have a JK or a JL, it's coming stock with a companion flange. And in fact, both drive shafts, while I don't love the high-speed welded drive shafts that are factory in them because they're very large.
Very large.
Um,
Their slips are a little bit different if you're used to the Jeep drive shafts of
Correct.
yesteryear.
But they do have the companion flanges, and that certainly benefits us. It's actually it's a little stronger and it's cost effective. So if you have a JK or a JL, you already have some of this technology on your Jeep at this point.
Yep.
But I think again on that one we use that Dana Spicer parts
Flange.
companion flange to adapt an Adams drive shaft. It came in, it had a more cost effective drive shaft.
Yep.
And unfortunately frozen. Customer was pretty frustrated. Had less than 2 years on that other drive shaft.
We've seen that quite a lot, honestly.
Quite a bit. Yeah, it's a very cool project, and I think that customer, he was trying to get axles built throughout the last year and a half, 2 years, and he was pretty frustrated when he reached out to us because he was just desperate. He had some trips he wanted to take.
Yep. And what we've been finding is there'll be a part. Not everything doesn't exist. A part won't exist. And people don't want to think outside the box and pivot, as we say.
Pivot? Yes.
Where we won't take no for an answer. Now, sometimes, if you come in, you're like, I have to have this brand, this thing. Okay, that may not exist. But if you're a little open-minded, maybe
you're open. Yep.
3 or 4 options, more than often than not, we can find you what you want.
We're making a lot of people happy right now. Tires, wheels, axle builds, gear components.
Yep.
Some of the harder to find, the air compressor we were talking about.
Yep.
Stuff that's been really challenging. We're able to, again, pivot and adapt and overcome to help out our customers.
And while the older the Jeep is, it definitely is a little more challenging. Even with those, we're finding pieces and parts, and the build goes on.
Well, and the build goes on. Man, that's great. So with that said, we've got to get to building. We hope that you have enjoyed some of our experience wheeling and the parts that we've used. We definitely want you to head over to sfj4x4.com. If you feel so inclined to help represent, grab some of our merchandise listed there. It really does help us, and we love seeing people represent the brand. Additionally, we do have the Christmas parade. So if you're in a reasonable distance for us and you want to have something fun and get out and see other Jeepers and tell stories,
kind of work off that turkey from the day before.
Work off that turkey. If you're out shopping and you just pack the Jeep full of goodies, out
by 5 o'clock. The shopping is done.
Oh my God! by 10 a.m. as far as I'm concerned, the shopping should be done. But absolutely. We hope that we see you guys here soon. We will be going live again next Monday at 10:19 a.m.
Yep.
And look for last week's podcast to go up on YouTube this week. And we have another cool video, actually, you building a really custom tire carrier
for CJ5.
So that'll be on YouTube tomorrow, as I understand it. So lots of good stuff going on. The build must go on, as you said. So Jeep family, appreciate you for tuning in. Until then, Jeep on.